is this light acting so fucking stupid? Is there something inside the light? She only paid $40 for it, so I'm good. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me for another episode of the Handle That podcast. And much like my video, or much like the episode where I talked about identifying and how to deal and or cope with depression, this is the second follow-up to that episode. So this episode is going to be about anxiety. It's going to be all about how to figure out what exactly anxiety is and how to deal with it. So I'm going to crack open this bad boy here. If you can see, if you're watching the video, this is a Caffeine. It's a probiotic drink. I advise anybody who's approaching 30 to start drinking probiotics at least 3 to 4 times a week. I drink these like once a day. So, you know, the older you get, the less and less your body produces the natural materials to break down food. I mean, it's not like I'm like having like stomach problems or anything like that, but it's better safe than sorry, you know. So, but anyway, what is anxiety? Anxiety is, wow. This is a big one. This is a big one. Anxiety is that nagging fear that you feel that doesn't necessarily go away as fast as it came. Because usually when you have like a fear of something, the minute you get away from that thing that's causing the fear, you feel better. Like, for example, I used to have this deafening fear of cockroaches. It's like if I saw a cockroach, it's like, oh God. And then, you know, growing up, like on the projects, if you saw one, you know, it's like, what did they used to say? If you saw a cockroach, that's just the one you saw. The other ones, like, for every one cockroach you saw, there were 10 that you didn't see. And I was like, oh God. And if you see when you can't go to sleep, like I couldn't go to sleep until I killed it or it was away from me. But anxiety isn't necessarily like that. It is like this constant worry that you have when you could be in literally any situation, and if you suffer from, you know, chronic anxiety, you could have panic attack, anxiety attack. It's literally like this nagging sense of dread, this nagging sense of, you know, despair, worry. Like you can't necessarily think positively about anything while you're going through whatever you may be going through. And it literally robs you of your positive energy. It literally robs you of your life energy, because anxiety, like depression and stress, can age you faster. You know, a lot of people suffer from certain types of, you know, illnesses that are only for people a little bit older than them, just because the stress, the anxiety, the depression has literally, you know, shut their body down. That's why if you have like you know, really bad mental health, you're more susceptible to getting sick, like physically sick, like flu, cold, stuff like that. And when you have that mindset, a lot of crazy things go on. Like if you take two people, one who has anxiety and one who doesn't, the guy who doesn't have it, you know, just typical day, you go to work, you wake up, you wash yourself, you go to work, you do whatever you do after you leave work, you come home, cook food, you eat, you go to bed. But anybody suffering from anxiety, if it's a really bad level, you won't even get out of bed. You won't even get out of bed. You may not want to eat. You may eat too much. You know, a lot like these three, depression, anxiety, and stress, they tend to act the same, but they definitely have their differences. So anxiety, it's just this constant, like I this is the only thing I can harp back to. It's this constant fear of what may happen. You know, when people want to do certain things, they always think about the bad things that could happen, and they rarely think about, well, what if this thing actually works for me? What if I actually do get to the next level? People with anxiety, there is no positive. It's only negative, negative, negative. And then in some cases, in some rare cases, if it gets really bad, you could be having a very good day, and your anxiety you could have an episode where you just have this feel of what the hell is going on, you know. And there's different types, like much like anything, there's different types. You know, you have people with, I don't know the specific term, but I call it walking anxiety, where it's like you can just go about your regular day, you can, you know, work your job, you can have conversations, hell, you might even be able to go out with your friends and family and stuff. But when you get home by yourself, that's when everything that you were going to experience throughout the day hits you, you know, full force. You know, it's just like the worst time to be when you're suffering from something like that is at night, because usually that's when you're the quietest, that's when you have the highest chance of being by yourself. You know, when you're at home by yourself at night and you're left with your thoughts. And if you suffer from these things, it's kind of hard to process these thoughts, because when you process them, the only outcome that comes is negative. You know, oh man, I could have did this better. Oh yeah, I could have did that better. Oh yeah, you know, well, what if I do this tomorrow? Or what if this happens to me tomorrow? What if I lose my job? What if my friend dies? What if my family member dies? What if this happens? It's just that is exactly what it is. It's this constant paranoia, you know. And a lot of physical negatives come along with that. Like, I can use myself as an example. There's some good stuff. I could use myself as an example. In the summer of 2019, when I was at my worst, I mean, I was literally at my worst point in my life. I had constant chest pains. I had constant pains all over my body. I had extreme fatigue. I remember me and my friend Micah and my old manager at this water company I used to work at. We went to this place called what was the name of the restaurant? It's in Charleston, South Carolina. Actually, James Island, South Carolina. No, that's West Ashley, South Carolina. But it's called damn it, what is it called? I can't remember what the restaurant's called, but regardless. And we were just having fun, you know. I was drinking on a little bit of alcohol, nothing too major because I'm not a drinker. And then out of nowhere, I just got, like, it felt like at that point, my energy was at 100%. And out of nowhere, it felt like my energy dropped from 100 to 40%, like literally like that. And I was like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on with me? And they were like, hey man, you all right? You good? And I'm like, yeah man, I'm just tired. I'm just really tired out of nowhere. At the time, I thought I was gonna die. You know, I can laugh about it now, but at the time, I thought I was gonna die because I had never experienced anything like that. But through research and through more experience, what was happening is my brain was literally, you know, dealing with anxious thoughts that I wasn't talking about. My brain was literally replaying scenarios of, you know, anxious scenarios, paranoid scenarios over and over in my head. My brain was literally working overtime, you know, and once it calmed down, my physical body was tired because it was just as though I had worked 8, 10, 12 hours. But the only thing that was really going on, was my brain was working. My brain was just hyperactive, and that made me incredibly tired. And that's really what goes on when you have this type thing. And I know it may feel, if you go through it, whether you want to admit it or not, I know it may feel like there's no way out, but there definitely is light at the end of the tunnel. You know, it just all comes down to, it just all comes down to whether you have a firm understanding, right? Whether you have a firm understanding of what exactly is going on. And, to say that, the additional physical things that come along with it, sensitivity to light. I had a crazy sensitivity light, like this halo light that I have right now. Last year, close to being around this time. Well, no, it was more so summertime, close to this time, whatever. I couldn't stand in front of this light because my eyes is just like, what the hell is going on? I had to sleep with a nightlight on. I'm this grown man. At the time I was 27. I had to either sleep with the bathroom light on and the door open, or I had to sleep with a nightlight, because when you have extreme anxious thoughts and then everything is pitch black, that is when your brain, like I said earlier, that's when all the thoughts come at you. And if it's extreme, you may hallucinate. You may see something that's not there. You may hear something that's not there. On 3 separate occasions, I literally heard my name in my ear. Like, I just be laying down with my eyes closed, and then out of nowhere, I just hear Jabbar, and I'd be like, what the fuck was that? It's like your brain is just going over and over and working overtime, and it's kind of scary because you literally feel like there's somebody there, but there really isn't, Or, this one time I tried to go to sleep, and sleeping is a motherfucker when you have anxiety, and it's really bad. But this one time I tried to go to sleep, and I literally felt my heart like beating through my ear, and I checked my pulse. My heart was beating regular. But here again, my brain is just acting, it's just moving, it's just cranking in overtime. And I just felt like there was no way out. I just felt like there was no way out. Overeating, because, I felt like that was the only thing I had control over, was what I could consume. And I would consume a lot, smoking a lot of weed. I tell this story whenever I tell people about, how bad my anxiety got. Over the course of like 2 days, I smoked like 10 grams of weed. And that is a lot of weed. Anybody who smokes weed knows that that's a lot of weed. But if you don't smoke weed, 10 grams is a shitload of weed. And I smoked it in like 2 days, over the course of like 2, maybe 2.5 if you stretch it. And just because, the marijuana made me feel better, I had this high feeling, and it would literally put me far away from that low feeling that I was going through. But over time, the high stopped working, and it also, and it actively started to make me feel worse than before I got high. So I had to stop smoking weed. But that's really just the physical, what you can expect with the physical stuff. Now, if we're going to move into the realm of how to combat, how to contain, how to fix, and how to hopefully beat anxiety. One thing you need to know about anxiety is that for some people, it never goes away. Let's just go ahead and put it out there. For some people, it never goes away. Now, that doesn't mean that every day is going to be like your worst days. Not every day is going to be like you can't get out of bed, you can't eat, or you overeat, you can't sleep, or you sleep too much. You can't focus on anything other than these negative thoughts. Not every day is going to be like that. No. But you will have your down days where nothing seems to make sense. You will have your anxious days where your mind is just moving at a mile a minute. You may even experience a slight to severe panic attack, which may feel like a heart problem. You may have an anxiety attack, mild to severe. You just never know these things, and you can never pinpoint what causes these things to happen, because for so long your brain has been trying to operate under a negative circumstance to where it just couldn't do it anymore. So you had to experience, things like anxiety. You had to experience things like depression, high stress levels. That's the only way they manifest in these forms, so that you can work through it eventually, but you have to go through it first. So if I were to say, if I were talking to somebody who has anxiety and who wants to deal with anxiety, I would say, definitely get a firm understanding of what's really going on with you. Get a firm understanding of what's really going on with you. Is it anxiety or is it something medical? If it's medical, go to the hospital, get your blood work done, get a checkup, get your body work done, maybe take an x-ray, get some, they're going to take some blood. I remember when I first had to go through what I went through, the first thing I did is I went to the doctor because I thought I was going to die. And they took everything and they told me I was good. They told me I was fine. I actually went to the doctor about 2 weeks ago. And prior to that, I went 2 weeks prior to that visit. So in the last month and a half, I went to the doctor twice. Took my blood, gave me tests, scans, and told me everything was good. So if you get that back, there's a good chance that it is anxiety, And if you have that, try to find a place where you can express how you truly feel. Because the one thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to keep it to yourself. Because if you keep it to yourself, you're never going to get any help that way. People are not going to understand you if you don't tell them what's going on. Try to talk to friends and family members that you feel as though you can confide in, who you think can give you great advice. And if they can't do it, seek professional help. I tell people all the time, seek professional help. Seek counseling. I went to counseling for about 2.5 months. Best decision I ever made. Best decision I ever made was going to counseling. To speaking to somebody who understood where I was coming from, and it felt as though she didn't, look at me as though I was just another patient. She actually had this sense of compassion, and sometimes that's all we really need. I say a lot of times, man. Sometimes all we need is somebody to listen to our problems. We grow up in this world where, nobody gives a fuck about your problems unless you, die prematurely or you do something about it. But sometimes, it wouldn't hurt to have somebody just be like, hey, man, what's going on with you? I'm going to take some time out. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm actually one of these people that do that for the people I care about. And, I don't have to necessarily know you to do that, It's not a bad thing to help people when they need help, and they obviously need help. It's not a bad thing to help people, man. So I would, not deal with, don't try to fix these things with void fillers like food and alcohol and cigarettes and, tobacco, large amounts of caffeine. Stay away from caffeine. Don't drink any, coffee or anything like that. Caffeine in the mental health society is literally called liquid stress, because it's a stimulant. It stimulates your body, and when you stimulate your body, you also stimulate your mind, and your mind is already moving so fast, you don't need anything else to get it to go even faster. You don't want to do that. So take some time off of caffeine, take some time off of social media, go on a trip, see some things you've never done before, or see some things you've never seen before, do some things you've never done before, go on a hike, go swimming, learn a skill, hit the gym, exercise, just have an outlet to express yourself, and a healthy outlet to express yourself, because we live in this world where people suffer from crazy amounts of mental anguish, and they think that smoking weed and not talking about it is going to help them. That's only going to make these things worse. I saw this post on Facebook last year where it was a picture of, I think it was Wiz Khalifa smoking weed, and the caption was like, I'm still trying to heal from shit that I don't talk about. And I'm like, that's so fucking stupid. How are you going to heal from something if you don't talk about it? You have to put it out into the world to get it out of you. I can't read your mind. You have to be able to speak to people about what you go through, and eventually you will see some leeway in this thing, and you will definitely get to where you need to get to. I know that for a fact. It won't be overnight. It may not be in the first couple months, it may not be in a year, but over time, it will definitely get better for you. I promise you. All you have to do is have a solid understanding of what you're going through, and then take the necessary steps to deal with it. And I really hope you guys enjoy this episode of the podcast. Make sure to follow the podcast on Instagram and Twitter at not Abdul Aesthetics. So we'll follow Abdul Aesthetics too at the handle of that podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Make sure to check it out on Anchor if you're watching it on YouTube. Make sure to check it out on YouTube if you're listening to it on Anchor, Apple Podcast, or Spotify, or wherever you're listening to it at. But here again, hope y'all enjoyed this episode. I want you all to stay groovy, stay positive, deal with these things, in a positive way, in a good way. Don't try to put yourself down. Don't try to deal with it in a negative way. Void fillers, you don't want to use those. And above all else, don't ignore it, because it's not going to go. If you ignore it, it's only going to get stronger. So with that being said, here again, stay groovy, stay positive, and above all else, handle that.